But I digress. So let's see what's up next in terms of those mission objectives we can do. Oh yeah, that we can able to actually decide to do with the forms of that particular circus tent that we can actually now go inside. Because remember the forms of those specific, well, tickets that we actually gone through ever since in those specific slot machine enemies that we obviously dealing with. Well, we can now able to actually go inside the tent, so that way we can able to investigate to see what's inside in that specific circus tent. So, anyways, let's warp into that, well, that specific spot, as I mentioned earlier. So, even in this case, let's go ahead and find the entrance to that particular circus tent by simply able to actually go through there, and obviously that we can able to go inside. So, oh look, we got ourselves the returning familiar fella, which appears to be by the forms of, well, Congo. So in this case though, it's been a long while since, I would classify for saying ever since in, you know, Mumbo's Mountain, because after dealing with you, after like sending those blue eggs at you, and the fact that you keep on tossing those oranges at us, well, I'm guessing I get the feeling that you're no longer going to be doing that, aren't you? Because obviously you're now going to be the host of the circus, if I recall correctly, so... Where do you think our seats will be? I can't see any seats. Perhaps we're supposed to sit on this big lump on the floor over here. Doesn't it look very comfy? Well, from the look of it anyway, but I get the horrible feeling that, well, sure enough, here's the next boss fight, so... Gee, looks like it's like an inflatable dragon. Oh dear, not more intruders. Well, I'll show you who's boss. See how big and strong Mr. Patch is. Bah, you're not all that big really. That Cloggo freak near the start was probably bigger than you. Oh yeah? How about this, then? Yup. So yes, here's the forms of Mr. Patch. The next boss fight in the game, as I said this earlier, so, I suppose you'll think you're clever, don't you? Well, one doesn't like to blow one-hour trumpet. Gulp, I sense a battle coming on. If you'll insist. Okay, sorry for this quick jump cut right there, because if you couldn't tell already, this is my third attempt for doing this boss fight, because the only huge emphasis on this boss fight's gimmick is the fact that, or the main mechanic, is that, remember the forms of those grenade eggs? And as you can tell, that I've pretty much lost some of my grenade eggs, because this is my third attempt doing this fight. And let me tell you, it's kind of fun, but also kind of difficult to pull off. Mainly just the fact that the main emphasis on this boss fight right here, that we need to use grenade eggs in order able to actually burst out his weak spots, 12 of them to be exact. Then as a result though, if you deal the amount of damage to Mr. Patch, then you will get shrinker and shrinker the more you're able to actually burst out the patches, or in this case specifically, his weak spots. And eventually then you will start to fly every once in a while, until you're able to actually deal the damage on the front of Mr. Patch. Because obviously from the start of the battle you have to do it on the ground, but until eventually when if you take down one of his weak spots, basically it's your chance to able to actually just to hit him in any spots with that specific weak spot. And then, yeah, that's all you have to do in this boss fight. Sometimes it can be pretty tricky though, because most of the time that you have to do it in airborne while trying to able to do it the actual egg aiming reticle. So as a result though, it might be pretty difficult at times, especially noticeable until likely later on, that sometimes several boss fights can be like that. So because of that though, yeah, there's not much else to say really, So anyways, a few things I want to explain when it comes to this point today, and that is the fact that yes, today's day is of course the 10th of September today, in this case in 2021 today. And it looks like that recently today, that marks today's release of WarioWare Get It Together for the Nintendo Switch has recently came out today on the Switch. And well, I've played it so far, whenever I managed to grab the game in day one. I absolutely enjoyed it. Sure, it might take a while to get used to with the how the main mechanics of the game works, But apart from those side things though, I actually still enjoyed it. Like, I still usually enjoy some of these micro games. They actually include like something new and all that stuff though, and some of them might be familiar. But as a result of that specific stuff though, it's just the fact that the only few micro games I'm actually really looking forward to whenever I play the game for myself, that's what appears to be, of course, the Nintendo Classics lineup in terms of the forms of those micro games, because obviously with the 9V micro games, these are the huge highlight in terms of the WarioWare series of games, because of these recognizable games you're familiar with. So, and speaking of such though, is the fact that I've seen some of these reviews already. Mind you, I didn't actually spoil for myself, you know. So as a result though, I've seen the reviews of the game, and it turns out they actually got like pretty good verdicts. Like, for instance, IGN gives it like a 7 out of 10, GameSpot gives it like a 8 out of 10. I keep thinking of another website. Actually, gonna think about it. Let's start from the beginning again while I deal with this boss fight. IGN gives it like a 7 out of 10, as I said this earlier. GameSpot gives it like an 8 out of 10. Game Info 7.75 out of 10. That's actually pretty good. Game Reactor 8 out of 10, pretty spot on. And Games Radar 3 out of 5, so that's good. And Motro, it gives it like a 6 out of 10, which is not usually the greatest review. But regardless of such, Game Explained says liked a lot, which is probably stands out, even though that most people seem to complain about half portions of some of these variety pack modes are somewhat good and most of the time are bad. But I'm not gonna get ahead of myself at this point, because obviously the game has usually came out just recently, so I'm not gonna you know, spoil things majorly though, until the next few days. That's if some of you guys have already picked up the game or not. So, anyway, so now we're done with that particular Mr. Patch boss fight, even though that's, well, to be speaking, he's pretty much toasted. So because of that though, yeah, assuming if you keep on, like, taking down all of these inflatable patches, as you probably already noticed, and that way we'll get ourselves, what else? Another Jiggy. So because of that, there we go. Even though I do need April to get down first. And there we go. We got ourselves our next Jiggy. So that does it for that. And now it's going to move on. So, oh yeah, something worth classifying for noticing there is one thing I forgot to mention. That is the fact that, yes, the Space Jam: A New Legacy on DVD just managed able to get its release date in the UK, and that's going to be releasing until the 25th of October, pretty much the same exact week as when Mario Party Superstars will be releasing on Nintendo Switch. So, yeah, I have no idea why that usually was a thing after all, but regardless of such, that's as far as I can usually understand for that particular acknowledgement as such. So, and also that's usually, relatively speaking, is the fact that actually, I must be honest here, there's not much else you can honestly try to talk about. Oh yeah, apart from the fact that, well, recently, the huge emphasis on the forms of another DVD release is felt to be finally coming out in the UK's release. That's what appears to be by the forms of, well, the SpongeBob SquarePants movie, Sponge on a Run, has now finally got its release date in the UK in the DVD release department. And it's gonna say, the 8th of November, which is roughly, well, I don't know about what I'm just gonna able to try to say for this point, because I know it has been 2 days since I actually last played this, because it pretty seems obvious, because I was being busy trying to able to think about some other stuff worth noting for. But yeah, with all that being said though, it's just the fact of the matter is though, is that I'm sure that most of the SpongeBob fans out there will be expecting to be super excited to get the actual film physically now, especially noticeable after watching through you know, usually for the likes of Netflix or Paramount Pictures and stuff, or Paramount Plus, as far as I like to pronounce that for the sake of time. Oh, and by the way, something about the forms of the Paramount Plus with those exclusive series, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, unfortunately though, is the fact that the Patrick Star show is gone pretty miserable all of a sudden. Like, from what I've seen the reviews of it so far, even for fans alike, that apparently though, that the IMDb managed to give the show likely 3 0.7 out of 10, which I'm pretty certain because of how the fact that the entire show's huge emphasis on the forms of the focus of Patrick and stuff like that. Well, I get the strong sense of feeling that it has the exact same review scores as in the forms of Camp Coral, SpongeBob's Under Years, particular miniseries or something, because of the forms of how weird the CGI looks. But either way though, it might be hard to say things for the sake of time right now, just because, well, unfortunately though, one thing I also want to classify for something, and that's the fact that, yes, unfortunately though, that my laptop keeps on lagging all the time, which as a result though, it's really irritating to me. But regardless of such though, is the fact that at the very least we actually got our next power right here, that we actually did manage to get our power generated for you know, Mumble, by able to actually deal with the star spinners and all that stuff. So at least that's the good thing. So either way though, that way we can able to actually guarantee by that. So anyway, so now we've done with that, and now let's go ahead and well, I just have no idea what the heck just happened right there, but either way, we'll just go ahead and continue exploring through here, and wow, not much else to say really, because obviously I've already mentioned about, well, you know what I mean, when it comes to the forms of, well, I suppose another thing I should probably explain about this as well, that, but generally speaking, when it comes to WarioWare Get It Together, I did manage to pre-order the game, and it does manage to come with two things, which one of them is the notepad, featuring the forms of Wario picking his nose, typical Wario, and also we get ourselves our 3 stickers, which I will say, those stickers are pretty cool, like literally the coolest thing in the world for my, pre-order item bonus, especially because of how the fact that, well, generally speaking, about the fact of the matter is though, it's just I'm just so looking forward to able to playing the game after the events of, well, WarioWare Gold for the Nintendo 3DS, well, at least despite the fact that that game has been out for about, well, you know what I mean, 3 years ago, which is pretty true for the sake of time, so yeah, you probably get the gist of it, so anyway, so let's go ahead and deal with these little star spinny platforms, which as a result though, oh, what do I just, dang it. So there's my another death now, which it's not that good kind of thing about it, because one thing I will have to admit though right away is that my jump button controls is not that great. Like, you have to be exactly right on with that specific jump button press, because if you don't press it during time, then you're probably gonna fall off, and then as a result, then you might able to actually get mistakes, just like that. So, and plus you might able to drain your health a lot faster than you could have been, especially because after all that I wasn't exactly realizing about, well, you know what I mean, when it comes to likely trying to deal with the forms of tight platforming here and there, but still. But anyway, there we go, we got ourselves our next Jiggy, so top notch for that part. And I somehow keep on falling off, and jeez the whipped, I keep on losing a lot of health right there, which is not exactly sure of how that's going to represent it with, but either way, we'll just go ahead and leave the star spinner contraption, so, or attraction as far as I like to call it. So anyway, so let's go and use these warp pads again, so just in case we can able to traverse into one specific spot to the other again. So hopefully we should be able to actually just actually gonna think about it, we'll transform back into the forms of that particular van again. So just in case if there are some missing stuff I was missing on, so in this case though, we'll probably go ahead and deal with all that. So anyway, let's go ahead and well, do some bit of driving going on while trying to able to go back onto the space zone again, and able to actually just to go ahead and enter here. And of course, since that we're actually going to be taking a lot of coins or cash, that means that yes, we still need able to pay coins to Grand Tilda to able to actually go ahead and try out some of these attractions. So in this case, we opened up one of those specific doors here. So in this case though, although here's the thing though, we can't go in there with Banjo, so the only way you can actually entering in there is by simply we are able to be, well, Banjo as in bear and bird. Well, Banjo and Kazooie, I should say. So in this case, we'll head back onto the forms of, well, that normal transformation there. So hopefully we would be able to actually go there. And I get the feeling that we might able to come across into not only one of the first fewer games that, or actually gonna think about it, for the actual emphasis on the forms of Witchyworld, this place is filled to the brim with a lot of activities that we've already tackled through, mainly for like, you know, the Bouncy Castle segment, and also, actually couldn't think about it, speaking of the Bouncy Castle segment, remember what I said before, that sometimes one of those NPC characters managed to randomly shows up during one of those locations? That's exactly what I was meant to have. Especially noticeable that we stumbled across that familiar, well, that girl bear right here, and basically that she wants, french fries. And because of that, though, that, she will pretty much guarantee that we can able to actually just to see her until in the future. Well, she doesn't give you anything rewarding just yet, though, because, oh, jeez Louises. That particular enemy with a hammer right there just almost trying to smack my head. But regardless of such though, we did manage to avoid that no problem, so... Anyway, so let's go ahead and continue things on here, while simply just trying to keep on collecting some more, well, you know what I mean, red feathers, or gold feathers, potentially, but let's not worry about that right now, because, well, since that we've pretty much almost done with this world, obviously, because, well... Obviously, we actually done quite a few bits and bobs here and there, which I did somehow realize about the fact that, actually I'll get to more now in a moment, because here's Dodgem Challenge. So, because basically, for this particular challenge right there, basically we do need to collect a certain amount of those points. And specifically, in this match specifically, we need to collect about 60 points in about likely for 45 seconds time limit. But for the most part, it's actually pretty fun, especially noticeable. It kind of reminds me of one of those mini games from Rayman Raving Rapids 2 that you're able to actually get onto the actual like bumper cars and stuff. However, unlike the forms of Rayman Raving Rapids 2, that basically there's no need for motion controls. So instead, it's basically just a normal controller, which as a result is pretty easy and self-explanatory when you get the hang of it though, so yeah, that pretty much summed up from there. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention something ever since the very beginning of this Let's Play, and that is that something to do with the fact that, well, if you keep on getting hit by the forms of enemies or hazards, that if you keep on losing a bit of your health, unfortunately though, unlike in Banjo-Kazooie, that's basically that you don't able to actually see those specific facial expressions if you get hit by an enemy or get hurt by a hazard. Like if you almost run out low on health, like basically that Banjo and Kazooie gets like a frowny face and also a bit of a sad face, and they manage to close their eyes and then open their mouths like way more if you die. But that's no longer the case this time around in this game, so yeah, that's something worth classifying for realizing to mentioning that. So anyway, so now we move on to the second round. That's basically that this time around we do need to collect about 50 points. So yeah, it's like a 10 points differences between the forms of in the first round, then the second round, and then this time around though we need to avoid 2 players, because what these players can do to you, that they're not just about to be able to try to compete against each other, no, they're always about to be gunning for you. So yeah, you have to be able to pay attention to the forms of a lot of like, you know, patterns in between, or to be more specifically, you're gonna have to be like extremely cautious without even getting trapped by the forms of other players, because if you don't have enough points, then you have to try again. So yeah, that pretty much summed up for such. So anyway, so now we move on to the third challenge, which this means is the fact that this will be the finale portion of that game, and because of that, we're now going to be competing against with 3 players. So 3 versus 1, or to be more specifically, 1 versus 3. So, you know, it kind of reminds me like a Mario Party game. Although I kind of wish if that was there, but relatively speaking, it doesn't seem to happen, so oh well, no big deal. In fact, what if I first saw this for the first time in my life? I almost assumed that it might actually act out pretty similar to Crash Bash, but you know, with the forms of that specific, you know, trying to defend your goal kind of syndrome, but apparently it wasn't, so you're gonna have to able to grab all of these Sparkles points until you're able to actually complete the challenge. So And the final round is the fact that we need to grab, or obtain rather, 40 points. So, yeah, that's the whole entire purpose of the actual finals in this particular minigame as far as this is concerned. So, in this case though, we'll just try to able to go ahead and keep on spinning around every once in a while trying to able to let the other three get separated for a bit. And then after we able to got enough points, then sure enough, we pretty much accomplished the challenge. So, there we go. Not too shabby and pretty easy when you get the hang of it though, especially noticeable that the controls are pretty simple, so you're just gonna have to use the analog stick, or the thumbstick I should probably call it out, and then basically that's all you have to do here. So there we go, 29 Jiggies that we've gotten so far throughout the whole entirety of the game, so not too bad actually. So either way, let's just go ahead and use the warp system again, and I get the feeling that we might able to actually just to go ahead and say right now that remember the forms of that specific the box crates that we've actually discovered from the likes of World 2, that remember that particular box crate, we've already discovered that apparently if you somehow manage to activate something likely for actually gonna think about it though, let's hop onto that platform over there, and that way we can able to actually interact with that platform, and this will actually take you to the other side of the Witchyworld. Like for instance that seriously, I just really love the atmosphere of this particular world. Even then, it almost kind of reminds me of well, Zootopia World from the likes of Super Monkey Ball Adventure, despite the fact that, well, thankfully this particular world has no loading screens at all, unlike Zootopia and Super Monkey Ball Adventure, because Jesus Christ, that game has a lot of loading screens, and it's just so bad. It's just so bad. Oh god, I forgot about the actual electrical currents right there. So yeah, basically we do need to avoid those electrical stuff if you're trying to able to do some wall climbing here and there, and there's a good reason why we ended up going into that specific section over there, because not only we can able to actually activate the shock jump, that way we can able to actually go up there at any time now, but also we can able to activate the button, and this will actually trigger something familiar, which, again, if for those of you ever trying to able to save this particular box crate ever since in World 2, then you realize that we actually freed someone from that particular box. We have a UFO contraption. So, yeah, we got that problem sorted. So, in this case, let's talk to him quickly. And it looks like that he was trying to say, jump on board for a ride on this exciting saucer. And, basically, with this particular next minigame we can interact with, basically, all you have to do in this particular stuff is the fact that we need to, like, get a certain amount of points, and you would able to get one of two prizes, as far as I would like to recall. Like, for instance, the first prize, it might actually contain, obviously, the Jiggy itself, and the other one, if I recall correctly, contains a Cheeto book page. So, we'll probably be able to do this minigame twice, by the way. Like, I believe the score of 500 will probably give you a, well, specifically the Jiggy, but if you get like 400 points, then I would guessing that you would be able to actually get one of the pages for the Cheeto book. So that should be part of the plan. And basically, this entire challenge is pretty simple. You have to be able to break an insane amount of targets while you're able to actually go into autopilot the whole way through. And then as a result, though, keep that in mind, you do have infinite amount of those gold eggs, so there's no limitations there. And also what's kind of fun is the fact that you can able to explore different parts of this particular world itself. Like, you go into the outside portion at first, but then later on you go inside the some of these other, like, attraction buildings and stuff like that. Which I will say, like, going and explore like this, it does kind of remind me like Space Mountain contraption on certain amusement parks, mainly for like Disneyland Paris or something like that. In fact, I haven't actually been to that place yet, although I've heard several good things about it, but it's just a shame I can't go there yet, just because of the forms of, you know, what's going on around the world. So, yeah, it's kind of sucks if you ask me, but I've heard several good things about that place, but I would wish if I'd like to go there, so. But anyway, and I suppose another thing I should probably explain about this as well, let me know in the comments below for the question of the day. Have you guys have your first impressions in terms of playing Warfare Get It Together for the Nintendo Switch? because I surely enjoyed that on my first impressions, because I would like to hear your thoughts down in the comment section below, because I would like to hear your thoughts about the game. So, because after all, that's, you know, oh god, I completely forgot about this particular, do a barrel roll kind of syndrome or something. So, anyway, let's just go ahead and keep on shooting those targets. And basically, just like in the forms of the balloon game or something like that, that depending on what specific targets you hit, you get a certain amount of points. Like, for instance, the red ones give you just only 1 point, the green targets will give you like 2 points, and the blue ones gives you 3. So, yeah, that might be something worth noting for that specific points reward system. So, anyways, let's go ahead and ended up in the forms of the bouncy castle section right there. So, but obviously, if you couldn't tell with my score at the moment, it's almost gone pretty okay and average at best. Because obviously, that since, as I said this before, I'm going to be doing this particular minigame twice. Like, one of them involves around, I would classify for saying I'm also able to guarantee to get myself either a second prize reward or the first prize reward. If I get a second prize reward, I'll be okay. But as far as the first prize is concerned, oh man, you have to be so accurate with all that, you know, the shooting targets kind of thing. Because since this is on the Xbox 360 at the time, so this means that, oh my god, what is going on? We ended up going into the 360 loop. But anyway, let's just go ahead and keep on shooting those stuff. And I get the feeling the game ends until when it ended up stopping the actual, the 51 area, so I get the feeling from there. Oh, just only 3 points left, but that's okay, because obviously I reached 400 or more points, so this means I'm able to get the Cheeto, page book. So, that's actually pretty awesome right there. And I think that's actually one of the last pages that we actually get, for the sake of this particular world. So, there we go. We got 10 so far, so even then, no, we still got a whole ways to go until specifically in the future portions of the game. So now we need to hit into this minigame again, but now we need to obtain the first prize. But again, to get the Jiggy, we need to get up to 500 points, as what the Flying Sorcerer is telling us. So, but again, you have to be so accurate with the aiming shots, because if you don't be accurate enough, well, if you keep on trying to go and aim for the blue targets, then, well, best of luck, really, because obviously that you'd be on rails the whole way through, not to mention, and thankfully at least it did took you a couple of tries in order to able to actually success for this point, so there's nothing to worry about the forms of a lot of mistakes or trial and error, as a matter of fact. So, but I digress. And yeah, I guess that's pretty much as far as I can say in terms of the forms of how today's discussion goes. Although, one thing I forgot to mention about, and that's the fact that the new Disney Plus series called, well, specifically, but in terms of the forms of the, Dark Days, you know, with the forms of the spin-off series from Up, well, basically, that particular series is now on live in terms of the forms of Disney Plus. And, I still haven't seen it yet, mainly because of the fact that I was more into the forms of other films recently, and plus, I was really looking forward until No Time to Die is about to be releasing until 20 days from now. So, yeah, at least I'm dying to see that film, for this point, because it's been such long enough as it is. Although, that, since that No Time to Die is still going to be coming until this September in the UK, which is good. Unfortunately, though, that not be applies onto Top Gun Maverick again, because once again, that film has been delayed, and this time it's going to be delayed until 2022. And take a guess, I'll take a wild card guess of what's causing the delay. If you guess the forms of the COVID-19, yes, that's correct. The COVID-19 is still the responsible for that delay again. So, yeah, this is getting tiring really fast. Although, sure, they might get vaccinated, especially noticeable in the future, but since I got 2 vaccinations, alright, I mean, surely that's not that much of a problem for my liking, but still, this is getting ridiculous, so... Anyway, and speaking of Up though, sadly though, one of the actors from Up, you know, with the forms of Carl as the actor, sadly he passed away due to the forms of the age or something, which is kind of sad honestly, but he does have his good life though, so yeah, that's something a little bit more personal to say things like that, but regardless of such, he's a great actor back in the day in 2009, so... But I digress. It looks like we are getting there to get up to 500 points, and I think it certainly is like a better run, what I've noticed. So hopefully we should be able to focus on that. So, okay, let's just go ahead and, oh, and by the way, you're gonna be keep on hearing that particular, Kazooie firing those eggs a lot, because that's all you really have to do in this particular minigame challenge, because obviously, that, well, as long as you hold down the right trigger button or the left trigger button, then you would be okay. So even in though, yay, we got up to 500 points. So, top notch. And but generally speaking, we probably guaranteed to get, of course, the next Jiggy. So, top notch for my aiming skills right there. So, thank you, Salsa. You managed to able to give me a Jiggy for this instance, so yeah, that's pretty top notch. And of course, you can able to replay that minigame again if you wanted to, but obviously I'm aiming for... Oh, jeez Louise, man, I keep falling off like nothing else. But I digress. So, anyways, let's go ahead and continue moving right there. So, just in case we might as well able to double check if there are some missing parts I was missing in terms of Witchyworld itself. Although, from what I can gather about the fact, the matter is though, is the fact that we pretty much guaranteed that we've almost 100% everything in this world. Well, apart from the fact that I get the strong sense of feeling that we only off by one Jiggy left. In fact, let me have a look at the views total right now. So in this case, let's have a look. Yep, we got every notes, we got every single Jinjos, we've learned all the moves, we got all the Cheeto pages, we got all the Globos, and of course we got every single of those extra honeycomb pieces, except for this one last Jiggy left, and that's what appears to be involved around finding the kids. So, but that won't be happening until for a very, very long while, so it can wait. It can definitely wait. So, but there we go, that's the first visit on, you know, Witchyworld. It's actually a pretty fun world, even though despite the fact that it does manage to able to give me a couple of attempts by able to actually just to, well, trying to deal with the forms of the Mr. Patch boss fight right there, as you probably already noticed. So, anyways, before we do any of those Jiggy Wiggy challenges, we're able to obtain those more musical notes, as you can see on screen. So, at least, thankfully, we can able to actually just well, it wasn't until later on, though, that we, as soon as we're able to learn the next move, then we can probably guarantee we can able to continue things on even further until later on. So, if you're probably wondering what's up with that tent over there, well, I'll discuss more about it until we finish the game first, to be more specifically the main game. And also that, if you're probably wondering, there was actually that particular well-hidden, cave somewhere, like usually on the wooded hollow. Well, then again, I will mention more about it until whenever we finish the main game first, including the 100% completion. So, anyways, so since we actually got 30 Jiggies right here so far, and I don't know about you, but I'm also able to do not only one, but 3 challenges for the sake of time. So in this case, we're able to actually do one right here. So in this case, I wonder what this location takes place. I know it's definitely more likely like ancient ruins or something. But then again, though, we'll have to fill up the puzzle first before we're able to actually see what the world is. So, anyway, so let's go ahead and fill up the pieces. And sure enough, that's again, there's nothing need to able to worry about the actual challenge of it, though. The only time it's tricky is the fact that when some of these Jiggies are a bit spaced out, but that's about it. But apart from those side things, though, there's no rotation to be involved. Unlike the ones in Banjo-Kazooie, there is a bit of the rotation thing going on, so... And also one more thing I would like to discuss, and that is the fact that apparently that the heat wave is now finished for the sake of the UK country, because we are slowly but surely we're getting into the miserable weathers at this point, because it's especially noticeable that we're almost at the autumn season. Well, at least technically we were, but I don't see any brown leaves anywhere, so... Anyway, so now we've completed that Jiggy Wiggy Challenge 4, and this will open up the next world, somewhere to La Laguni, which, as a result, I'll probably will mention more about it, assumingly, first of all, let's go and take care of the forms of another 2 Jiggy Wiggy challenges out of the way, so just in case I can able to make the process a bit faster. So in this case, the next challenge requires you to obtain 20 Jiggies, so thankfully I've still got enough. So, and this does manage to take place somewhere in the cliffside, or specifically the cliff canyons. So, I wonder what world is it going to be? Well, we'll find out until whenever we filled out the entire puzzle itself. So, but yeah, that's as far as I can usually try to describe it at this point, guys. I must admit that I do apologize if my commentary gets a little bit sloppy at points, but until eventually in the future, actually kind of think about it, ever since yesterday, that you notice on the PlayStation Showcase has already been a thing. I would love to mention more about that, but unfortunately though, we've almost run out of time for able to actually discuss on that, so in this case though, we'll try to mainly focus on that specific discussion until specifically, I would say next Wednesday, if it's any possibilities of, not only does that next week we're also able to potentially try to get, the next Nintendo Direct eventually, but also that, we might able to actually see some more infos on, Tokyo Game Show. Sadly though, the Nintendo, games will not make it to the Tokyo Game, Show, which is kind of sucks honestly, so yeah, probably we might able to wait for a while until God knows if Nintendo were able to announce the next Direct, or should I say the final proper Nintendo Direct for 2021 before they moved on to some other Direct presentations, so until at the very end anyway, so anyway, so let's do this last Jiggy Wiggy challenge, and that is Jiggy Wiggy Challenge 6. So, and this does remind me of the forms of, well, Rusty Bucket Bay for a small extent, except, well, this is an entirely different world, so, but then again, we'll point it out whenever we're able to fill this entire thing out, so still, it's not that much of a challenge, honestly, apart from the fact that they always go in the same place. That's the only lacking in difficulty as far as that's been concerned with, so. But again, if you failed that particular challenge, then obviously you can try again if you wanted to. So, yeah, that pretty much explains for that such. Alright, so let's see that particular animation when that particular, you know, behold, the power of the mighty Jiggy Wiggy laser power to able to actually unlock another one of the worlds. So, and this one appears to be Grunty Industries. So, this should be interesting. But unfortunately, we can't go there yet because obviously we still need to learn some more movesets, or specifically some more moves, until we're able to actually access that area. And especially noticeable until later on in the future too. So, yeah, that pretty much stopped up for such. So, anyway, so it looks like I don't have enough Jiggies for a while for challenge 7. So, how much Jiggies I got left for the next challenge? So, I've got 6 left. So, that should be almost up to the minimum or something. Well, then again, no, I have no words to say about this other than the fact that, well, generally speaking, that's all I can say about it. So, actually, before we end off here, let me just go ahead and try to able to go ahead and, first of all, since we actually got quite enough of those extra honeycomb pieces, so that means we can probably guarantee to able to increase one of our health. So, since after all we've got 6 of them so far, so this means that we can probably trade 5 honeycomb pieces for honey bee. So, yeah, I'm also able to thought about that. So, yes, please, trade. So, that way we get ourselves another energy unit. So, and that pretty much leads up to, well, specifically, I would say 8 health. So, top notch. Although, that, unlike the forms of the original Banjo-Kazooie game, that basically the amount of health you can only reach up to at minimum is the forms of 8, unless 16 if you want to count the forms of that particular red honeycomb bars, so because of the forms of the double of the amount of health. Whilst the forms of this game, I'm pretty sure the amount of health you can get to this time around is 10. I'm not exactly sure they're able to do the double of the amount, unlike the original game, but then again, no, I'll point it out until whenever we get into a later portion of this game, so. And it feels like so far anyway, for the sake of this Let's Play so far, it's actually not that bad. Certainly a lot more better than the forms of how it does it back in 2017 and 2018, because good lord, we keep on delaying things a lot, especially it's not good. Even especially noticeable because obviously since that you guys are you know, enjoy this Let's Play so far. So because of that, though, I appreciate about the forms of trying to able to upload these again, so... Anyways, as you can see on screen, we stumbled across a new types of eggs, which appears to be body forms of ice eggs. And this will be useful until specifically whenever we get into the next world. So, with these ice eggs, what these can do is that you can able to freeze enemies with. Or in some cases, they can able to freeze certain things. So, which then again, we'll point it out until specifically later on throughout the entirety of this Let's Play. So, oh, and every once in a while though, in the Isle of Heeks, sometimes that we might able to come across into those train switches that, as you notice, ever since in Witchyworld that we've already discovered one, there's another one just over there, and basically that actually opens up the forms of the actual gate, so that way the train can now able to actually go into multiple locations. So, pretty cool looking, especially noticeable that we can able to do some multitasking things for this point right now. Although we can't do it right now though, because obviously that's, well, we're trying to mainly focusing on one of them for the time being until, oh jeez, those specific, well, enemies right there. That's, for what I've seen of speedruns of the forms of this game so far, that's, basically, they always failed from that specific section due to the forms of that annoying knockback, which, thankfully, that doesn't seem to happen for my case, because obviously, if you somehow accidentally got knockback, you have to go all the way back to the beginning of the room, so... Anyways, let's activate that switch, and this will actually create a bridge that pretty much not only leads us to some more music notes, but also the next world, which, that's not going to happen anytime soon until specifically in the future. At least to be more specifically, we're still going to be focusing on the number of worlds in a chronological order. So because of that, though, that makes sense, because obviously if you're trying to do this the odd way pattern, then it will not work properly. So, anyways, let's go ahead and just grab some more music notes here to able to actually just do, look at that, 360 music notes. Not to be confused, that's the exact same number as of the Xbox 360 logo. So, yeah, it's actually pretty swell. So, anyways, we got the next Globo for Mumbo Jumbo, but either way, let's not worry about that right now. But of course, we've already activated the forms of that particular teleporting space thingy right there. So, in this case, we should probably end things off here. So join me next time on Let's Play Banjo-Tooie. That is the fact that we'll hit on to the next new world, which appears to be, well, Jolly Roger's Lagoon. I mean, what is this, like Super Mario 64's Jolly Roger Bay? But we'll discuss on that until on Monday, so I'll see you guys then.